as much as we want the MVP award to be a big race with a bunch of people in it, it's really boiled down to 2 guys, and 3 if you want to stretch it. But we're going to go through with basically everybody and all the meaningful performances already having taken place, and we're going to give our final predictions for MVP, offensive player, offensive rookie, and defensive rookie. Maybe not hard predictions, but definitely opinions on who should and should not win them. And we have a couple of the betting favorites for each award that we will have listed, and then we'll go through if we want to add anybody to the list. But we'll start things off with the big ticket. We'll start it off with MVP. We haven't done this before. We normally go smallest to largest, but
Yep.
let's just give you the payoff right at the start so you can click off this video after you hear this. So the big 3 are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. And I think the reason that I want to take it down to a 2-horse race personally between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson is just because the Bengals have not been good this year. If they make the playoffs, I think there will be a big reason that Joe Burrow should win it, because without him, they would not be in the talks. But for me, I have my pick. Even if the Bengals were to make the playoffs, I know who I would want to win the MVP, who my pick would be. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, because I assume you're between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's a shame because for realistic purposes, it is Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow, he's played great. He's played great a good part of the year. The defense has been the thing to let them down the good part of the year. And, it's a shame, but quarterback wins is a stat that matters in MVP voting because, that's kind of a quarterback race. So it's always going to go quarterbacks, and it's always going to matter who's winning the most, who's the 1 seed, who's the top. And so when you kind of look at it and you consider the picks that we have, if I'm going to completely rule out Joe Burrow, which statistically even, I'm not sure Joe Burrow matches this conversation, but, if
He
his
actually
defense...
exceeds it.
I know he leads in the passing stats, but rushing-wise, he doesn't have that to factor in. So I don't know what the scrimmage is.
True.
The total touchdowns to scrimmage for that comparison. But with Joe Burrow, and I'm going to negate him statistically because I don't know where he stacks up with those in the scrimmage department, I would go Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has played phenomenally. He's played with very great protection of the ball. He's played great in a scheme where we know he will thrive. He has good running backs. This is definitely the best team offensively Lamar has had around him. He's had some receivers actually catching the ball this year. And I think that, Josh Allen just had a little bit too much of that turnover spurt right in the middle of the year, kind of knocked him down there. And I would lean Lamar Jackson because of all the great stats he has put up this year.
So I am leaning Josh Allen in this one. Interception-wise, Lamar does have him beat, but he has enough fumbles to clear the discussion. So Josh Allen has fewer turnovers than Lamar Jackson, factoring in fumbles, which, I mean, for most quarterbacks, I would say, fumbles are a product of blindside block
offensive
not
line
happening.
Yeah.
But with Lamar, when some of them happen on the run and some of them are for one reason or another, I think that they do matter and they do need to be taken into account. It's something that really doesn't get talked about a lot because I was also under the impression up until like probably an hour before recording, I was like, oh yeah, Lamar's stats are better, but Josh Allen's put his team in a better position. So, to pick your poison. But then I watched a Nerd Sesh video on why the MVP race should go to Josh Allen. And I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. The EPA per play generated, all these random created stats, of course, will favor certain players, and you can cherry pick whichever one you want to use. But to me, the MVP award is about the feeling that I get from a player and the amount of added value to their team that they have. And to me, if we look at how the offseason went, we'll even go 3-horse race. We'll go for the 3 players. Josh Allen lost everything. He lost receivers 1 and 2. He lost a lot of his defense, which, if we're just talking about his production, doesn't fucking matter. But if we're talking about it with Joe Burrow in the race, quarterback wins, team performance, he has kept his team in a lot of games and won a lot of games that, for all intents and purposes, he probably shouldn't have won. But So I think he's kind of even with Joe Burrow on ability to keep his team in games. It's just that Joe Burrow has to do a little bit more because his defense is a little bit worse. And then looking at Lamar Jackson, when you consider what happened with him, you get all your receiving weapons back, Mark Andrews coming back from injury, and you add Derrick Henry to the fold, which is another threat to worry about in the running game and in the just like in the read option game. So you've got teams that are focused on the running back rather than just on Lamar when you're doing that. It's you do see a net gain in talent that the Ravens have brought in. And when you look at the Bengals, it's kind of a wash. You know, they lose Joe Mixon, but Chase Brown has been really good and elevated by Joe Burrow for sure. But ultimately, like losing a running back that you didn't want and traded for a 7th round pick, I'm not really gonna consider that a huge loss, you know? And then other than that, you lose Tyler Boyd maybe, but you still have T, you still have Jamar, you're still playing at an extremely high level. I think Gesicki is a new addition there. Yeah, he was on the Patriots last year. That okay. I should have known. Wow.
True enough.
But yeah, I feel like for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, there was a net gain of talent. For Joe Burrow and the Bengals, there was basically a wash of added talent versus lost talent. And for Josh Allen and the Bills, there was a significant loss of talent. And to me, the feeling I get about the MVP award, like I was saying, the value added, Josh Allen has kept his team at the same production with all of the players versus without all the players. Lamar Jackson has kept his team at the same levels of production with all the players versus with more players. And Joe Burrow has kept his team at, you know, the defense sucks, so a worse level of production, but his offense has been basically the same as it was last year, maybe a little bit worse, and he was injured last year. So, but yeah, I just feel like Josh Allen is doing more by himself to elevate than any of the other candidates, and that's why I feel like he deserves it, at least in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, the team talent is definitely a good factor in that. And then when you brought up the fumbles, like Lamar, his rushing ability, like I wouldn't have pegged him to be a better passer than Josh Allen on the year, but a worse rusher. So that's an interesting little thing with the turnovers there. But long talk on MVP. We said we would get it out of the way, get it foremost. And now if you want to stick around for the rest, we're going to go ahead, power through the Offensive Player of the Year award next. And we're going to start with your opinions on it.
Okay. Saquon.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
2K,
short,
gonna break the rushing record if he plays. You can say Jamar Chase, he's having a phenomenal season. He's probably going to win the Triple Crown, and that's impressive and all, but Saquon Barkley ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
The last time we saw that was Derrick Henry, and I don't know. I feel like this is an insane season from Saquon, and for him to not win the Offensive Player would be a disservice to the award and to running backs in the league.
Yeah, it's comparing a current top of the line versus a historical top of the line, and you got to go historical in that sense because, you know, it only happens once so often, but being the top of the current league is definitely one that, like, you know, you could be like, oh, this should get the Player of the Year nod, and I respect the opinion, but Saquon, historical things being done, I lean that way.
Now getting into the Defensive Player of the Year, some of the current betting favorites don't make a ton of sense to me. TJ Watt is currently the favorite to win it with 11.5 sacks on the year. And let me see if he's got any other meaningful stats. 6 forced fumbles is cool, but like, I don't know. I feel like he is not putting up a season that would be deserving of a DPOY. Pat Surtain is second highest odds, and then Myles Garrett is third. If you're interested at all, Andrew Van Ginkel is fourth in DPOY
nice.
Odds.
Love
so
that.
Gotta shout out my boy Van Ginky.
Yeah.
And do we want to maybe add somebody else to this race that may not be in the betting odds?
I would like to add somebody because he just had 2 interceptions this past game, and you know his name happens to be Kirby Joseph. He's named after a famous character, and he also is leading the NFL in interceptions. So I feel like with his stellar play that he's had all year long, he's kind of, you know, he's contributing as much as a safety can in the NFL. and you want to compare him to some edges who definitely have higher opportunity to come away with big plays and sacks, forced fumbles, what have you. I kind of lean towards that niche. I mean, hell, I probably had Brian Branch as defensive player, like rookie of the year, that first year. So I lean those more niche, stellar performances that may not be the ones that you kind of highlight as like, oh, he's got this many sacks and he leads the NFL. I feel that you kind of got to go with the harder to obtain plays, and I think with the interceptions, it falls in that ballpark.
Yeah, I would also like to see Kirby win it. I'm not personally a Lions fan, so I think that my desire to see him win it is much less biased than yours. But
yeah, I'd agree.
I just don't think the rest of the league has done really anything. Like defense, I feel like is up around the league, but
It's a team,
individual defense performance is not. Like the best defenses we're seeing are great units, like the Broncos who have Pat Surtain, but they've also got Nick Benito going off, and they've got like other guys on that defense that are genuinely making a huge difference. And it truly is not a one man wrecking crew like we've seen in years past with guys getting 20 sacks or guys getting like absurd numbers and the rest of their defense is doing nothing. But I feel like it's a race that's just going to be really like unpredictable because it's all going to come down to what the voters value the most. And if DPOY is as much an edge rusher award as MVP is a QB award, which I feel like that's what it's become in recent years, except for Aaron Donald, but like, anomaly, one of one. I feel like we may see a TJ Watt or Myles Garrett win it when they're very much not deserving. But advanced stats will tell, I'm sure.
Moving on, unless you want to put a certain, like you threw your hat in the ring for Kirby. I'm not sure if you put a certain like lock on who, if it's between Kirby and Pat for you. He just looked at a Kirby figurine he has.
No, okay. I looked for my Gonzo jersey actually. Okay. You're close, right there. No, I don't know. I don't think anybody in the list is deserving of it. I think that it's MVP last year, where I was looking at the players and I was like, I guess there is a most deserving, but it is not a deserving player. But yeah, I don't know. I think Kirby would be cool to win it. I think that's my desire, but Pat Surtain would also make a lot of sense. I think just anybody that isn't an edge rusher would be really neat. Yeah,
that'd be fun, right? Fun to see the rarity of that. Then we've got Offensive Rookie of the Year. And now this one almost gives the same vibe of like, this is a quarterback award. The best quarterback from the rookie class gets it. But I would love to see Bowers get it, honestly, with performance. Like, yeah, Sam Laporta didn't get it last year, and he had a great rookie performance for a tight end. Bowers, I want to see it go to someone out of the norm. And it's like, realistically, I would lean towards Jaden Daniels with his comebacks on the year, the way he's conducted an offense of a team that is winning. Bowers, he's not exactly going to lead a team to wins. It's not what his position does. It doesn't have that much weight. So, yeah, realistically, Jaden Daniels would be my pick for this. My heart is leaning Bowers.
I'm actually going to pick Bowers. I really hope he wins. I mean, he's having a historically great season, just period. Like not even for rookies. He's just having a historically great season for tight ends. And I think Jaden Daniels is having a good season for a rookie quarterback, but I think that having a historically great season is more deserving of the Offensive Rookie Award than, wow, a pretty good season. Like Jaden Daniels partially transformed the Commanders into a contender, but Brock Bowers is catching passes from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ridder and is leading like all tight ends ever in rookie categories. Like we're not going to see this again for a very long time. Like if Bowers doesn't win this award, I'm not sure anybody other than a quarterback ever does.
Yeah,
I guess is where I'm at with it. Then I feel like you've got a better handle on the defensive rookie race, just because I know you are more of a Rams enjoyer than myself, and you've also got some high quality rookies over in Detroit over there.
Yeah. On the just on the side of the defensive rookies that we've had, they're not nearly going to be entering the Rookie of the Year list, in my opinion. Terry Arnold, he really played poorly to start the year, has really turned it around since, but he's still having little minor tic-tac issues, so I'm not going to go ahead and insert Lions bias into this conversation. But that little bit of Rams bias I've got, I might be moving some pieces because I really do feel that Jared Verse has done great things for I tapped on what his his cohorts when I was making those predictions that we went over last week on how the defensive line would kind of play without Aaron Donald. And, I think that he's performed the best out of many rookies this year. And it feels like defensively rookies haven't been as big contributors as probably years past. Quignon is definitely in the race here, but as we kind of just touched on, the defensive line bias in these defensive awards, I would pick Verse as my winner of it. I don't have as much bias to lean towards those more niche prospects here, especially with defensive rookie where it's very much spread out. You're not seeing a lot of guys who are getting like all of the snaps or all of the opportunities to make all of these big plays. They generally are the ones opening up opportunities elsewhere, but I would pick Verse here.
Yeah, I would like to re-shout out the guy that I shouted out when we did this video mid-season when we were talking about the awards races, and that is Mikey Sainristil. We just saw him on the national stage last night, or 2 nights ago, versus the Commanders, versus the Falcons for the Commanders. He's a really good slot corner, and was forced to play outside because Marshawn Lattimore's hurt, and he cooks. I mean, like, I feel like it's once a game when I'm watching the Commanders and I look over and I'm like, damn, that's Sainristil with his hand inside of the ball. Like he is not getting a bunch of interceptions, but he is making plays on the ball. I feel like more than most people that I watch play. Like on the year, he has 2 interceptions, but 11 passes defended. And I feel like that's pretty accurate. Like, basically won a game. I mean, few games without him, but that's probably earlier in the season when I wasn't paying attention to him a ton. And I feel like he's done a lot, and I would like to see him at least get a nod for it. He is currently not sitting in the top 9 for Defensive Rookie of the Year, which is kind of disappointing. Definitely let us know your thoughts down below on all 5 major awards, who you think might get snubbed, who you think is actually deserving of some awards. If you think the MVP should go to somebody who's maybe not a quarterback, and let us know that in the comments. I would love to see Saquon win it. Not going to happen, though. But with that, if you are here just for the segment video, check out the full podcast. Drops tomorrow, same time as the segment.